You need a plan, a lot of hard work, and a little luck to get rich. But if you want to be rich beyond your wildest dreams, you have to choose a church. Think about how much money the Vatican has. Who knows, maybe the masters will give you some ideas and strength. So welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to dive into a topic that's been the subject of much speculation and curiosity: the unimaginable wealth of the Vatican. I know it's a controversial and intriguing subject, so let's get right into it. Now, let's start with the financial system of the Vatican. You can't just have faith and become the biggest religion in the world. A complete financial system is needed to make sure that money and wealth keep flowing through the centuries. So, how did the Holy See become so rich? Certainly, it's not a holy secret. First of all, the Vatican depends on gifts from both religious people and wealthy organizations. You've probably heard the saying, when you're not sure what to do, pass the dish around. The church's faithful followers seem more than willing to give their own money to help the church, but that's not all. The Vatican also does well when it comes to making investments. Yes, you did read that right. Who would have thought that people dressed in silly clothes and wearing strange hats would be so good at money? Even so, it's true. The Vatican has a huge amount of money, and most of it comes from their well-managed financial holdings. You might be curious about the kinds of interests the Vatican has. They've been involved in almost everything. The Vatican seems to know how to spread out its investments in heaven, from real estate to stocks, and of course it helps to have some friends up there. Not to mention the business done by the Vatican. The Holy See does have some business interests. They found some creative ways to make money off their religion, like running museums and selling religious items and souvenirs. One of them even found the key to making money in the back of a souvenir shop. Because of all their businesses, the Vatican has become one of the richest places on earth. It's the 18th richest country in the world with a GDP per person of $21,198. Even though there aren't that many people there, they still managed to make $717 million in 2021 alone. But this isn't the most important thing the Catholic Church has. Those people own it. Real estate profile of the Vatican. You might not know that the Vatican owns a lot more land than you think. With so much property all over the world, it's safe to say the Vatican is the world's biggest owner. The Vatican owns some of the most famous buildings in the world, like St. Peter's Basilica in the middle of Vatican City. This is in contrast to most billionaires who only own a small piece of land and one or two huge houses. It is the largest Christian church in the world and the second most important religious place after Mecca. St. Peter's Basilica, on the other hand, is seen as a gem of Renaissance architecture and is almost priceless. And since we're talking about wonders, the Sistine Chapel is one of the things that the Vatican owns. The famous ceiling frescoes by Michelangelo in the Temple of Faith show the standard story of how Adam was made. Also worth seeing is the Apostolic Palace. It's the official home of the Pope and has different apartments, churches, and offices for running the Vatican. After all, the Vatican isn't trying to hide the fact that this is a palace. However, the most important and valuable of all their properties is the Vatican Library, which has a huge collection of historical manuscripts, books, and documents. In a way, it's the history of human civilization collected over time by an organization that will always be around, along with some of the most beautiful buildings in the world. The Vatican also owns a number of amazing sites outside of Italy. Italy is where most of them are, but it's still a different country. Castel Gandolfo, which is about 15 miles southeast of Rome, is one of them. On the grounds is the Pope's summer home. It looks out over Lake Albano and has a lot of grounds. As you might think, the Holy See owns more than 1 million churches around the world. Some, like St. Paul Lateran, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul Outside the Walls, are more important than others. The Apostolic Nunciature is the name for the embassies or diplomatic missions of the Holy See in different countries around the world. In each nunciature, the papal envoy lives in a building or house that's part of the nunciature. Altogether, there are 116 on-world searches. On the other hand, the papal palaces are the most beautiful of all the Vatican sites around the world. The Pope has access to buildings and homes all over the world, like the Apostolic Palace in Latter Rome and the Papal Palace of Avignon in France. Each palace is used mostly for religious, administrative, and political purposes, not for living in. They are, however, lavishly furnished with beautiful art and luxurious furniture. The total value of the Vatican's land is impossible to figure out, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's well over $50 billion. You might think that the Vatican City pays a lot of taxes on these amazing and pricey houses. Don't make me laugh, please. The church and taxes. Taxes are the only thing in life that are as certain as dying, unless, of course, you're the Vatican. Yes, the Holy See has had a strange connection with tax agencies over the course of history. People say that money can't buy happiness, but they say that in the past, it could buy a few tax breaks. The Vatican is good at staying out of the reach of the tax man. As a sovereign state, it was able to get some benefits from God, like not having to pay taxes. Also, there was no crazy king who was ready to tax the one person who could kick them out of their religion and send thousands of religious extremists after his property and wealth. But not getting taxed is not the most important reason why the Vatican is so rich. The famous indulgences brought in the most money for the Catholic Church. Selling indulgences was the holy grail of making money. Do you want to go straight to heaven and skip purgatory? Open your wallet and let the money flow out like holy water. It was the first scam where you had to pay to win, and it made the Vatican's coin box jingle. As you might expect, some countries where Catholics are not the majority were not happy that the Holy See got free stuff while everybody else had to pay. So they want to put a tax on their homes. The government says that the church should pay its fair share of taxes, but the Vatican says it shouldn't have to because it's religious and independent. It's a fight that blurs the line between money on earth and money in heaven. Lastly, people are still talking about how taxes affect the relationship between the Vatican and European countries. It shows that the church's finances are always changing and that there's a delicate balance between sacred and worldly things. Still, the Catholic Church has taken a lot of steps over the years to make it harder to tax them. The most important step in this direction was when the Vatican became its own country. The birth of Vatican City and the bank nobility. In 1929, the Holy See and Italy signed a pact called the Lateran Act. This is where the story starts. After years of talks and disagreements, the Vatican and the Italian government came to an understanding on this pact. The Holy Treaty made the Vatican a sovereign state and gave it authority. So, how did the Vatican get its own piece of land? It was the result of a real estate deal that was a miracle. The treaty gave the Vatican power over a big part of Vatican land, including the famous St. Peter's Basilica and the Vatican Gardens. It was like buying a house with the same luck as winning the lottery. So, the 44-hectare area that would become the spiritual and administrative center of the Catholic Church, Vatican City, was created. So said the Vatican, "We might not have the biggest kingdom, but we'll make it the holiest place on earth." Like any other separate country, the Vatican City had to set up some institutions, because we're mostly talking about the Vatican's money. The central bank is a good example. They have a lot of money in their bank account. In short, the Vatican is much richer than most millionaires and has a lot more money than they do. Thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for more.